Today in the spotlight, we're joined by CCTCA Board President John Hansen to talk a bit about club triathlon at the collegiate level. Welcome, John.
Thank you for having me here today, Brian. I appreciate that.
So let's just start off. Maybe you can explain a little bit for those who are not familiar with what the CCTCA, the Collegiate Club Triathlon Coaches Association board is tasked with, what your approach is to developing opportunities for athletes to compete in the sport at the collegiate level.
Yeah, so the CCTCA was born about 3 years ago, and we've been really in existence for about 2 years now. Collegiate Club Triathlon coaching in general, but we have several bylaws that are designed to support all things that are collegiate. My role in the club is, as board president, is to oversee the board and help direct the board and some of the initiatives that we have. In particular, we have two ongoing committees right now. One is an outreach committee and one is a professional development committee. And those are chaired by two of our coaches. Outreach committee by Amy Maxwell at Army, and her goal in that committee is really to focus on the promotion of the club sport to the junior and high school level, and really to try to align with USAT's to do the same thing. And then he's hosting the professional development committee, and that committee is really geared towards developing coaches and their professional development within the sport, but then also to help align and match clubs who don't have coaches with coaches. That's a big part of that. And then the whole idea is realm within the collegiate system. We have about 60 coaches in our association now, and just looking to develop that even further. So there's a huge angle on the coaching part of it, but then that helps to support the clubs in general, because we as coaches are big believers in that coaches will thrive both in terms of their success as teams, but also in terms of their size and their contribution to just triathlon growth in general when there's a coach.
Explain a little bit about how club triathlon provides a unique opportunity. Maybe it enhances what is offered at the NCAA level or fills in some gaps. And from your perspective, what makes it unique?
Well, I think club triathlon is very unique in the sense that we are an extensive work, extensive body of work within the sport at the collegiate level, because we have around 2,000 plus members, I think, within all the clubs. Tim Yon indicated recently there's around 110 clubs now active within USAT collegiate clubs with over 2,000 members. So there's a lot of opportunity for high school and junior triathletes to move on from their sport in high school to a college somewhere in the United States, to be able to continue their college career and continue their triathlon career without thinking that NCAA is the only avenue to go. And that certainly is a great avenue. It provides women in the sport kind of to get at the pointy end of the sport and to be part of the collegiate system. But the collegiate club system just has a huge broader scope in terms of its reach to many different athletes. The college system is open to all athletes at all levels, even if you've never done a triathlon before. And in fact, probably 80-90% of all club athletes that come onto a team have never done a triathlon. They're typically single sport athletes, mostly runners or swimmers. And then the program, hopefully with a good coach, is bringing those athletes along and developing them in the sport. And I think that's the unique part of it, is that it's so wide open to so many different levels of athlete, and they can be successful as a triathlete. And that success is defined obviously in many different terms, but it definitely offers that opportunity for a lot of different athletes coming through, the high school ranks.
Can you talk about what some of the programs are doing that are competing for a team championship, and what some of those athletes who are competing for overall championships look like, and their aspirations?
Yeah, so a lot of the higher level teams that are competing for those top 5, top 10 overall team spots, and that have individuals who are competing for podium spots. Those include some kind of perennial favorites like Berkeley and Colorado State, Queens, Navy, Army. Those are all competing, usually year in and year out, and those teams, along with a few others from like the West Coast teams, UCLA, UCSB, Cal Poly, and so on, who kind of compete in that top 10 realm, all have fantastic athletes that are extremely good and very strong in terms of their level of talent, and oftentimes they are the ones who are looking to move on in their career in terms of triathletes, maybe go pro. I know USAT even offers a pro license for those athletes who finish in this race in the top 3. That has been the course in the past. And so that offers them an opportunity to look towards the future and what they want to do with their career. And the teams that I mentioned oftentimes have people who are finishing on the podium year in and year out. And those teams really, like a lot of teams, they don't necessarily focus on those athletes because, all these teams, we all kind of have the same general development of athletes, where we have these newer athletes on the teams, and then the people who are experienced, but don't necessarily want to compete at a high level, and then you have the group that competes at a very high level and wants to do very well and move on. So a coach has to kind of balance that out. But certainly coaches will look at those athletes and maybe develop them a little bit differently, focus their training maybe a little bit differently. But they certainly are part of the overall excitement that is provided at national championships, because they often, provide a lot of great competition, and that's what a lot of college athletes like to see. At a national championship, is not only their own success, but the team success, and that team success will come with the higher level athletes competing against each other and doing well in the different formats that we have available, which is another great part of the national championship. Is we have a mixed team relay, a draft legal race, and an Olympic race, and and all 3 of those provide opportunities for different types of athletes, and different ways in which the team can kind of orientate itself around the competition, but then also the energy that that national event provides.
You and I were talking just before we started recording, and I come from track and field and cross country early in my coaching career, and it feels a little bit like in the fall, the NCAA space kind of mirrors, which people traditionally see in cross country. Everybody's racing the same format, same distance, same course, in terms of the team, and the scoring historically has actually followed a cross country scoring pattern, although that's changed recently. And then in the spring, there are multiple competition formats similar to track and field, where there's a variety of different events going on at a track meet, at a spring collegiate club championship with all those different racing formats. It sounds like there's something that's suited to the unique skills, abilities, and aspirations of a variety of athletes. And in that way, it's exciting, because it is going to open the door to a lot more athletes to have success.
Yes, I definitely agree that the Olympic distance race, that's essentially open to any athlete that goes to the national championship, and typically with the draft legal race and the mixed team relay race, those are also open to any athletes that that want to compete, but typically, especially teams with coaches, and typically those athletes might be at the front end of their sport in the college ranks, and so they have an opportunity to compete in those format, and that's an opportunity that is provided at the club level with the national championship. And there are actually races throughout the year that are draft legal races leading up to the national championships in some of the conferences. So there's lots of opportunity for athletes at different levels and different focuses to be part of the club system.
To your point, I believe that one of our most successful Team USA competitors, who's frequently found at the front end of World Triathlon points races, Eric Auckland, came from the club system. Is that not correct?
Yes, that is correct. And in a few years past, Ben Canute was also part of the club system. Ironically, Taylor Spivey, although it was a brief stint in the club system, she was competing at Cal Poly when before she turned pro, and then there were several Olympians from 1996 who also came through the club system. So it does have a tradition for developing those athletes and getting them to a higher level. And I know initiatives like the NCAA and Project Podium and those kind of things are also obviously trying to be at the forefront of developing that. But the club system also has a hand in developing those type of athletes.
As someone who's been involved in it from a few different angles now, I don't think that they necessarily collide in the way that some people think, and potentially with some shared vision can really enhance what one another's doing out there in terms of creating opportunities for student athletes and aspirational athletes, and then growing our sport in general in the United States.
Yeah, I agree, because that to me, like the NCAA, for example, they're recruiting athletes who are specifically showing talent in the triathlon world already, and taking them and advancing them. The Collegiate Club is offering opportunities to a much wider base, and there's always going to be people within that wider base who are kind of rough around the edges in terms of their triathlon career, but can certainly develop and become, very, very strong athletes. I think if you look at the pointy end of our sport, and you take the top, 20 females and males, and if you look at those athletes, particularly on the female side, and you compare their talent to NCAA, sure, it's not going to match up exactly, but they can do very well against a group of NCAA athletes, and that just points to their ability, having probably come from a single sport out of high school, to their development over the course of their time as a collegiate athlete, and it all allows that development of the sport in general in the United States, not only from just a pool of athletes that we're growing within the club system, with 2,000 athletes in the system already, and that just grows the sport in general. But then we're also helping to grow maybe the pointy end of the sport with those few athletes who are doing very well at the club level.
You really don't have to look a whole lot farther than someone like our most celebrated and most accomplished triathlete, Gwen Jorgensen. She came from the single sport space. She had the requisite skills, and 2 years after being introduced to the sport, she's an Olympian, and a few years after that, she's a dominant force on the world stage. The unique thing about collegiate aged athletes, the physiology of someone 18 to 22 years old, they can be introduced to something and then be really proficient at it in not very long at all.
Oh yeah. I completely agree. It's, as club coaches, and we talk about this quite a bit, is we will see athletes come into this system on a team, and again, they're coming in as single sport athletes. Let's say they come in as a runner, never biked before in their life, and within a year and a half, they're already competing at such a high level, and their time and their power output, and however you measure that as a coach, in terms of their abilities and how they progress is just phenomenal. And you just don't know what you have when they come to your campus, but you look to try to develop them in any way. And yeah, you can talk to any coach in the association or any coach, collegiate coach in general, and they'll say they've had multiple athletes over the time that they've been coaching who have made this massive leap every single year. And you're right, they're at an age when just their growth and development and their kind of consistent year in and year out training within the environment just helps them to grow and develop and be successful. And so it's always an amazing journey when you see that athlete come in as a freshman and when they leave as a senior, and how much growth they have. If they put in the work, it's just amazing.
Without knowing the first thing about who's on the rosters, if I put down a bet on who's going to win a trophy at Collegiate Club Nationals this spring, and I chose Colorado, Cal, Colorado State, Navy, or Queens, I'd probably have a pretty good chance of winning some money. What is it that those programs are consistently doing, and what could someone take away from what they're doing if they wanted to launch a program?
Well, one of the biggest things they all do is they all have coaches who are long-standing coaches. They've been there for 5, 8, 10, plus years, and they have developed a system in terms of how they train their athletes and how they communicate and mentor and develop athletes throughout the program. And for those athletes who are looking to go to or kind of create a program, or if there's a coach out there trying to create a program at a particular school, the things that you kind of have to remember are, one, that there has to be interest, obviously. That is either coming from a student who is interested in it and they have some friends who are interested in it, or an outside coach who wants to put together a collegiate program. And most collegiate club programs are operated under some entity within the university. So it's either a club sport department, or rec, or intramural, or just the club system itself. And it may not even be a sport club system. It may just be all clubs if you're at a smaller school. And they typically will provide these students or this coach who's looking to create a program some guidelines on what is expected of the club, how it's operated, what are the guidelines and rules of clubs in general on the campus. So that's usually the first place that you would go to develop something like that. And then from there, typically the club system will have you create some officer positions. Then once that is established, you start to promote the club, create your social media platforms and whatever is allowed through the university. And then ultimately you hire a coach. That's our recommendation, is that when you see these successful teams and they have these long-standing coaches, they typically started out helping to develop their teams. And if they stay with the program long enough, the team will be successful.
The energy, the enthusiasm, it has a unique feel that is very clearly distinct from the NCAA side. And, both sides have some really great things they bring to the sport, but the energy on the club side, without a doubt, is unique. And it's a lot of fun. Having been down to the championship last year, I was at Lake Lanier, checking things out, looking at the new venue down there, and having been at NCAA championships just a few weeks prior to that, it was remarkable, the differences.
Yeah, and I think the just the size of the number of people that are at like a national championship, there's typically around 1,000 to 1,200, sometimes up around 1,400 athletes at this championship event. And when you bring that many athletes together in one space who all have a common goal and kind of a common reference, because they're all college athletes, they're all competing on a team that throughout the year is kind of creating a lot of energy in the day-to-day workouts and the things they do socially together as a team. and then to bring all that together in a venue like the national championship. Yeah, I participated and been a coach in many different realms. And I've been coaching now at Davis for 18 years and seen a lot of national championships, and it is definitely very exciting. A lot of energy at that event, and yeah, just a very unique situation, which is not, I don't see that anywhere else in any kind of sport. So it's, yeah, it's terrific event every single year.